Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. Alright, round two. The second record-breaking album bomb in as many weeks, and one from an arguably worse album, and yet somehow it doesn't quite feel as big, at least to me. I mean, it's still sizable. We've got 18 new arrivals this week. It's going to be another long episode, but since the majority of it is from Post Malone, and I already covered that album, I'll likely just have even less to say this time around. It feels less noticeable overall. Might be a little shorter, at least I hope so. Or maybe I just feel a bit better because at the end of June, Billboard will be releasing some new streaming rules that'll likely curtail at least some of this mess with album bombs, but that is a much bigger story for another day. But for now, our top 10, and yet despite Post Malone's success, it was not enough to unseat Nice for What by Drake at number 1. And yet again, its position is not incredibly strong, not really dominant on the radio or in sales, and really only just on top thanks to streaming. And even then, Psycho by Post Malone featuring Ty Dolla $ign cut into that margin considerably as it rose up to number 2 on streaming and radio traction, but without any sales for that extra push, it's not going to number 1. Compare this to God's Plan by Drake, which, yes, is mostly anchored by YouTube at this point, especially as his radio hit a hard peak, but it's got enough residual radio and sales to only drop one spot to number 3. And I'd argue that's one of the reasons why Meant to Be by Baby Rexha and Florida Georgia Line held its own at number 4. Thanks to good sales and sliding but dominant radio, it's just not as impacted by the album bomb. Also the same sort of case for The Middle by Zedd, Maren Morrison, Grey up to number 5. Good sales and strong radio compensating for no real streaming, although it also peaked in airplay and will probably start falling off soon, and I'm also kind of okay with that. Now this makes it vulnerable to our first new top 10 entry, Never Be the Same by Camila Cabello at number 6, buoyed by a remix of Kane Brown on sales and good radio to break in and block our second new entry, this time from Post Malone, Better Now. And as always, we'll deal with the song itself later on in the show, but it got the most on-demand streaming and a modest amount of sales in order to crack number 7. And right behind it, we've got more Post Malone with Rockstar featuring 21 Savage back in the top 10 at number 8, entirely thanks to a big streaming recovery. Now, the last two entries, they aren't all that surprising. Look Alive with Block Boy JB and Drake holding on at number 9 thanks to residual airplay holding up weaker streaming and sales, and No Tears Left to Cry by Ariana Grande slipping only down to number 10 off the debut thanks to streaming not quite fading yet and some pretty solid sales and airplay growth. I would expect this one to stick around, and I'm honestly okay with that. Now on the flip side, man, it was another rough week in our losers and dropouts, although you can make the argument that those in the latter category really had it coming, with the long overdue exits for Thunder by Imagine Dragons, or Feel It Still by Portugal the Man, or Let You Down by NF. But really, the much bigger loser this week was J. Cole. So in addition to most of his album bomb falling off entirely, ATM fell to 42, KOD fell to 44, Kevin's Heart went to 48, Motivate dropped to 71, 1985 Intro to the Fall Off fell to 79, and Photograph faded to 80. And it continued to be a bad week for Cardi B as well, as Barche Cardi with 21 Savage slid down to 75, Ring with Kalani went to 86, and I Do with SZA struggled at 89. But again, with Post Malone taking up so much space in streaming right now, he mostly served to drive back songs in his own damn genre, with Plug Walk by Rich the Kid down to 31, Get It by Lil Pump slipping down to 51, Stir Fry by Migos to 53, Japan by Famous Dex to 55, King's Dead by J-Rock, Kendrick Lamar, Future, and James Blake to 66, On the Way with Khalid, Ty Dolla $ign, and Black to 82, and both Sad and Changes by XXXTentacion to 60 and 96 respectively. Now the rest, hell, most of the country entries seem to be decaying naturally, as Most People Are Good by Luke Bryan slid down to 74, and I Lived It by Blake Shelton down to 91, and Zombies by Bad Wolves is finally dying off of being around too long at 88. But the real disappointment for me was the continued loss for Say Something by Justin Timberlake featuring Chris Stapleton to 78. Now, this can happen with sustained album bombs. They just start downward momentum that can't be stopped, and well, this song will likely have a few more weeks to recover, likely too little, too late at this point to make the year-end list. And again, disappointing. And what gets even more exasperating is that our gains probably can't pick up the slack when it comes to the content. And yes, we do actually have gains this week. Survivors that can weather the tide, like Dura by Daddy Yankee rebounding to 54, or the continued radio pickups for Booed Up by Ella May at 37, or the awful new arrivals like Deme Tu Cosita by El Chamba, which picked up a ton of streaming to 43, or the surge for Te Bote by 6 reggaeton artists I don't feel like naming because the song is hot garbage. And then there's Rockstar breaking into the top 10, but we got one better story, is that we actually got one returning entry with Candy Paint by Post Malone at 34. Now, I'm not gonna mince words here. It's been on the charts way too long to get the points it needs for the year-end list, and it won't really last as all it's got is streaming right now, and that is gonna fade. But you know what? It's really great to see it back. I really am a fan of that song. But now, on to the rest of our Post Malone. But before we get to him and our new arrivals, we've got number 85, Ye vs. the People by Kanye West featuring T.I.
Yeah, you can, it would count though. Don't they go against the teachers that Ye taught for? Yo, Tip, I hear your side and everybody talk though, but ain't going against the grain, everything I fought for. Probably so, Ye, but where you trying to go with this? It's some shit you just don't align with and don't go again.
So I want to make this abundantly clear. There has been entirely too much discourse surrounding Kanye West's ignorant ramblings on Twitter the past couple of weeks, and frankly, the less time and attention given to him, the better. But now that it's unfortunately crossed into the music, with T.I. and Toad act as the disbelieving voice of reason, it needs to be addressed. And it's about what I expected. A sample chopped up behind a single verse of T.I. and Kanye going back and forth, but it doesn't even really touch on policy of the current administration, or what's being done in the name of the current administration, but rather about Kanye West's impact on the conversation. And as much as T.I. really doesn't get the chance to effectively call out Kanye on his dumbass attempt to reclaim Make America Great Again, or attempts at recontextualization that hold precisely zero water, and even when he does try to call Kanye out, it's very clear that Kanye's not listening to T.I. For as much as he wants to unify people, it's hard not to feel like he's just being a contrarian to drive up attention or for its own sake, all the while parrying with one of the worst flows that he's ever brought to the table. No, I'm sorry, this is painfully clumsy. If it wasn't for the fact that so many damn people worship Kanye regardless of what he says or does, this would have fizzled out, or not made the chart in the same way that Joyner Lucas's I'm Not Racist did, which had its own issues, don't get me wrong, but it was certainly better than this. In the meantime, there is a part of me that wants to see Lupe Fiasco and Common take Kanye to the woodshed, but really, the best thing that could happen is for all of us just to ignore Kanye West and move on. So, next, number 77, Overdose by YoungBoy Never Broke Again.
I was missing out on plenty shit, just watching time fly past. I was broke down on my dick, I had to get me a bag. Having shootouts broad day and we was running from tags. I put my flex down, never sit down. I told that bitch that I never stay down.
You know, I would say that I felt kind of bad for YoungBoy Never Broke Again having the misfortune of any possible breakthrough overrun by Post Malone, but that would imply any of his music was interesting or all that good, and I'm still not remotely convinced that's the case. So, just like the last song, it's a single extended verse, this time after an extended intro just over 2 minutes, and look, I'm still not all that impressed, at all. Rhymes are flubbed when he even bothers to connect his awkward, jittery flow at all, extended bars about shooting people, including an extended, stretched out metaphor of bullets for drugs, and when he shoots them, they overdose. Yeah, that's the level of wordplay we're dealing with here. And yeah, there is some griminess to the arranged instrumentation and the piano behind the darker track groove, but man, talk about a waste of some decent production. Like, I could see someone who was a halfway decent rapper flowing over it and this would be passable, but otherwise, no. Next, number 73, Jonestown Interlude by Post Malone.
It sounds like suicide. I'm hesitant, but I guess I'll drink the Kool-Aid once again.
Okay, just like with J. Cole last week, my task will be keeping these Post Malone entries pretty short. I reviewed the album at length already. I recommend checking that out for more details. And just like last time, we're starting off with the song Fragment, albeit a pretty one thanks to the wheedling guitar work flooding the desaturated mix and the thrumming synth line. And honestly, I don't mind Post Malone here. Him succumbing to the vapid party amidst the cloud of vocal layers is one of the most believable things of his entire persona on this album. Shame all we got exploring it is 3 repeated phrases, so not a lot to talk about. Number 62, Famous by Mason Ramsey. So some of you might be wondering why I don't just break out the meme review for the song, and I can't. I just can't. It's just genuinely sad to see this. A kid like Mason Ramsey, who blew up based off of his yodeling on an old Hank Williams tune, saddled with the producer from Florida Georgia line to try to wring out as much cash out of the phenomenon as possible. And I can't blame Mason Ramsey for that, because he's got the sort of energy and personality that could make him a genuine talent in a decade or so if he wants to make country music. And yet you give him the sort of blocky, forgettable, bro country track that might have a bit more pedal steel and banjo, but still feels like any other overproduced, second-rate ballad album cut that nobody remembers or cares about an hour after they hear it. I mean, come the hell on. The kid blew up thanks to his yodeling, and you can't even let him do that on this tepid pablum? Again, I'm not angry with Mason Ramsey himself here, folks. I clearly see talent, and you know what? I'm happy about that. But man, he deserves so much better than this. Number 57, Sugar Wraith by Post Malone.
And then I went and changed my life. I might take out the red tonight. Put your arms around me, baby. I just wanna fly, make it last before we die. And I know you wanna ride. What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Alright, let me get this straight. We couldn't let Mason Ramsey yodel, but we let Post Malone caterwaul over this with the cheap trap snares and the weird beeping synth-inflected hook interpolating Sugar Ray. And really, by the time we get to that really clunky second verse, does anybody really care about the song besides the Anthony Fantano reference? You know, the only person who will be relevant from this whole affair in 5 years? And you know that's true? Number 47, Blame It On Me by Post Malone.
It's not my fault, it's not my fault, it's not my fault. I couldn't breathe, almost lost myself, couldn't stop myself. I did it all, you can blame it on me. It's not my fault, it's not my fault, it's not my fault.
More warbling, a mix that's even more desaturated and miserable, and yet with every layer of watery autotune, I can't deny this is one of the more potent hooks on the album, if only for as warped and twisted as it gets near the end. Shame that if you actually have to take a look at the lyrics, it's Post Malone whining about fame and success, and simultaneously taking the blame while professing at length it's not his fault, except on the bridge where he tries to backpedal and say that it's all his fault after all. Frankly, you know what, I agree with this. Yes, Post Malone, it is all your fault you did this. Now shut up about it. I don't care. Number 46, Otherside by Post Malone.
Don't even bring it back. What am I to do? Feel like I'm circling the drain. All I see is the remains of an ugly truth. 100 models I could follow all the way to hell and back, but they can't replace you.
I have heard some people say that this song might be partially inspired by the Red Hot Chili Peppers song of the same name. Wouldn't that be so much better to listen to instead of this beeping, desaturated misery with the flat, glossy synths and Post Malone moaning post-breakup? And while it certainly feels as unpleasant as such an experience would probably be, it kinda loses some of that resonance when on the first chorus he references all the models he could be chasing instead of just wallowing in this. So yeah, I'm not here for this at all. Next, number 40, 92 Explorer by Post Malone.
When my whip start, then my wheels keep spinning. Ooh, baby, go on, keep it spinning. Ooh, yuck me up, I don't want no romancing. Ooh, baby, I see these motherfuckers glancing. When my whip start, then my wheels keep spinning.
So I have stated that after the Jonestown interlude, the album got a little bit simpler, a little bit brighter, and a little bit better. And while Candy Paint is clearly the best example of this, 92 Explorer is a close second for me. Sharper synth work with that popping, watery beat until the trap groove clicks in, and a pretty bouncy hook overall. Now granted, Post Malone trying to call anybody on jacking flows is more than a little bit rich, but it's a minor annoyance on a track that's too vapid and upbeat to really care about anything else. And I can mostly groove with it. Not really great, but not bad either. Number 29, Taking Shots by Post Malone.
They go to work for some money, we make it from acting out. We taking shots right now. Yeah, we taking shots right now.
So here's the thing with songs about getting this level of blackout drunk. Normally, you want something to provide some sort of insight with this darker tone in your scene, or you just have a miserable experience with such dark trap percussion and fuzzed out gurgling replacing any sort of melody. And yet Post Malone seems to be trying to enjoy this party as he references sipping on Bud Light, popping out frog like Ribbit Ribbit, not having any clue how many records he's actually sold, and speaking drunkenese. And people think this guy is cool? Really? Number 24, Over Now by Post Malone.
So you know that I'm never ever coming back. You got your heart on the counter in a Prada bag. I used to never ever wanna see the light of day. Yeah, I was an idiot, begging on my knees up to the floor. Now I don't even want you anymore. It's over now.
So one element I didn't really expect going into Beer Bongs and Bentleys was how angry he was going to try and be on songs like this, with a sharper guitar groove and the overblown drums. And let's put aside how Post Malone ripping on this girl for being materialistic and vapid when on the first damn verse he references trading a girl for diamonds and a car, and on the second verse praying for his Amex and gold. What gets a little bit more distracting for me is that for as much as Post Malone is shouting about putting the bitch pussy in a body bag, he's kind of hard to take seriously when he's warbling about being an idiot, or saying with his new bitch he's going to help her out of his car, and he doesn't care if you don't like it. And you'll wonder why I don't respect this guy, because this is not good at all. Number 23, Zack and Codeine by Post Malone.
Living fast, no, I can take it slowly. Man, my life's so sweet, I feel like Codeine. I wake up, rinse my mouth with fucking Codeine. We on a bed and we ain't getting no sleep. We turned the hotel lobby to a party.
Seriously, I don't get why Post Malone even makes party songs if he's gonna spend his pre-choruses warbling about wanting to be left alone and then title his song Zack and Codeine to spend the verses flexing. If you're giving the bitches coke, dude, if you're not having any fun, you can just leave, or at least have some sort of coherency here. And trust me, dude, even if the song does have a little bit more bounce to the hook, nobody's expecting you to save their soul. They might expect you not to complain about people jacking your sound when you in fact stole your sound first. Bit hypocritical there, don't you think? But beyond that, it's just vapid and kind of forgettable. Next, number 20, Same Bitches by Post Malone featuring G-Eazy and YG.
It don't really matter where they from. Acting on model, heard it all before. Population 4 million, I see the same bitch. I see the same bitch, yeah. Population 4 million, I see the same bitch. I see the same bitches, yeah.
I'm starting to think that just like J. Cole, Post Malone should just not make songs about women because he comes across like a total asshole when he does it. You're gonna complain about the same Instagram models being at your parties and clubs and then accuse them of getting cash from their parents when if they've got 1 million+ followers, they're probably monetizing it and doing just fine, especially when you're not exactly cultivating a lifestyle in your songs that leads to long-term relationships or anything that's not shallow. And sure, the hook is catchy, courtesy of the pianos, but then when you have G-Eazy rapping about stealing the same type of girls Post Malone's complaining about, and YG once again phoning it in, just comes across as kind of bitter and sour in a really unpleasant way. Might want to be careful, guys, or those girls aren't going to come around much longer. Just saying. Number 17, Stay by Post Malone.
I've been waiting on this all damn day. Call me in the morning, tell me how last night when I'm here, but don't count on me to stay.
Ah yes, the acoustic ballad where Post Malone tries to delve into the messiness of a relationship and how even despite the drunken deflection, she shouldn't really expect him to stay. Okay, you know what, the sentiment is there. There's a bit more complexity, and I don't mind the electric guitar solo, but then you get lines like how he's gonna put her out of her misery, or how this woman is putting out her cigarette on his face, and when you pair it with the shallowness of how Post Malone writes about women on nearly every other song here, I'm sorry, this could have been better, but it just doesn't resonate the way it should, you know? Just saying. Number 16, Ball For Me by Post Malone featuring Nicki Minaj.
Get my baby 35. Ball for me. Ball for me, yeah. Ball for me. Ball for me, yeah.
You would think that if Post Malone would team up with Nicki Minaj, she'd spring for percussion and synths that don't feel this undercooked or lacking any sense of groove, but really, that would imply there's much to the song at all. Post Malone flexes, comes to the realization he can't spend any more money, but then Nicki starts flexing and then ends the track on a more melodic mode asking for Post Malone to buy her something. So what happened to you not cutting this guy any slack, Nicki? You could buy and sell Post Malone nearly 10 times over. You really don't need to waste your time or features like this. Number 15, Spoil My Night by Post Malone featuring Swae Lee.
Feelings come into play, and I'm thinking this happens every time. Spoil my night, spoil my night, spoil my night, my night, spoil my night, spoil my night.
Again, I really don't understand why Post Malone makes miserable party songs. Hell, outside of maybe Drake, I don't get why anybody makes them, especially when they're not exactly insightful to delve any deeper here. And instead of Post Malone actually bringing any insight, we've got a badly tuned melody with gratuitously ugly auto-tune, Swae Lee phoning in his flexing, and Post Malone saying that the girl rocks with him like Jumanji, has beautiful boobies, and then throws her away when she starts taking Instagram videos because his girl at home might find out. Again, why does anybody find this guy likable again? Number 14, Rich and Sad by Post Malone.
Hey, you know I would throw it all away. I just keep on wishing that the money made you stay. Price went up, my price went up, we went our separate ways. I just keep on wishing that the money made you stay. Hey, hey.
See, it's songs like this is why I find Post Malone so damn grating. He jacks a style and sound that is not his own in hip-hop culture, dumps out the same vapid garbage in his content, then gets famous, and still wants us to feel sorry for his complaining in the most boring, insufferable, and sometimes even incoherent way possible. I mean, take this song with its cheap trap percussion, and Post Malone wishing the money was enough to get this girl to say, and if that's not sad, I don't know what the hell is. But if he threw all the money away, A, there's no guarantee that she'd come back, and B, given how much you flex otherwise, I highly doubt your gesture has any believable weight. And even with that, he undercuts the emotional core by mentioning all the sluts grabbing on his nuts, so no, Post Malone, no pity for you. Not good. Next up, number 11, Paranoid by Post Malone.
Wondering when they'll come for me. A paranoid man makes paranoid plans. I do what I can, but it's out of my hands. Struggling just to find my peace.
You know, I mentioned this song prominently in my Beer Bongs and Bentleys review, but this opener just doesn't work at all for two main reasons. One, it requires us to buy into Post Malone's paranoia having any real basis in reality, which I don't. And for two, for any sense of tension, it requires production that can capture that, instead of this very stiff but very dreary and melancholic arrangement that's got no sense of urgency. And when you pair with that line referencing politics and how there's no point picking sides, yeah, you shouldn't reference that, Post Malone. Pass. And finally, number 7, Better Now by Post Malone.
Would've gave you everything. You know I said that I am better now, better now. I only say that cause you're not around, not around. You know I never meant to let you down, let you down. Would've gave you anything, would've gave you everything.
Our last Post Malone song of the week, where the guitar is desperately trying to punch out of the trap beat and warbled reverb, and how he's now warble singing about how this girl thinks she's better away from Post Malone, but that's not true because Post Malone would be there for her, but wait, he also thinks he's better without her, but that's clearly a lie. And really, the entire song is a bundle of mixed emotions that might as well have "not over it" stamped on its face, and Post Malone's mingled attempts at flexing, which he wouldn't mention if he wasn't trying to show off, even in contrast. I'm sorry, it doesn't help any sense of sincerity here. And given how he's treated women in all the other songs I've talked about, yeah, I'm not buying it. Skip this too. So yeah, this week is pretty lousy, but it's Post Malone. How is that any surprise here, especially if you saw my review? But I gotta be honest, he's getting the best of the week here with Stay and honorable mention for 92 Explorer. Beyond that, for the worst, oh my god, there are so many possibilities. But I'm gonna throw for a tie for dishonorable mention with Over Now and Taking Shots. Because worst of the week is going to Ye vs. the World with Kanye West and T.I. as an utter failure in concept and execution. Because at least Post Malone can put together together a passable flow. My god, Kanye. Anyway, given how Ray Shermer's newest triple album seems to be pretty weak on streaming, called that, we might as well get a comeback week ahead, so everybody stay tuned. Hopefully that'll happen. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.